Welcome back, everyone, to the Conspiracy Files series right here on Beyond the Known. This is our third deep dive in the series.
Great to be back.
Last time, we really got into the debates around the age of the Sphinx. We looked at the standard timelines, but also some pretty fascinating alternative ideas about, how old it really is and who might have built it.
Yeah, that was a deep one. Lots of conflicting ideas there.
Definitely. And if you found that interesting, well, hold on, because today we're tackling two giants.
Indeed. We're shifting focus to something a bit more modern, but definitely just as persistent in the public mind.
Yeah.
The Roswell Incident and, of course, Area 51.
Ah, yes. Roswell and Area 51, they're kind of the quintessential government secrecy, maybe alien stories, aren't they? Been capturing imaginations for decades.
Absolutely. Prime examples, and our research suggests they're deeply intertwined, at least in the conspiracy narratives.
Right. So our mission, our goal for this discussion is to really dig into the research surrounding both. We want to lay out the core claims, what people actually allege happened.
And look at the arguments, both for and against those claims. Really try to understand what the available research points to.
Exactly. Give you a clear picture based on the evidence we have. Okay, so where do we start? Roswell, I guess. The crash itself?
Makes sense. Let's go back to July 1947. Near Roswell, New Mexico. Something happened.
And the initial reports were pretty startling, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. The Army Air Forces, the AAF back then, put out a press release. Said they'd recovered a crashed flying disc. Imagine reading that headline in 47.
Whoa. Yeah, flying disc. That's not subtle. But that didn't stick, did it?
So, very quickly, they changed the story. Retracted it, actually. Said, never mind, it was just a weather balloon.
Just a weather balloon. Quite the downgrade from a flying disc. And for a while, that was sort of the end of it.
For many people, yeah, it faded. But then, fast forward to the late 70s, early 80s.
Right. It comes roaring back. But this time, the narrative is different.
Very different. It gets reframed strongly as a definite UFO event. You start seeing books published.
Books claiming what exactly? More than just a disc?
Oh, much more. Claims of recovering not just the alien craft, but alien bodies, too. Extraterrestrial occupants.
Okay, now we're in full-blown conspiracy territory. Alien bodies.
And these claims, it's important to note, they haven't stayed the same. They've sort of evolved, grown more elaborate over the years.
So this obviously generated huge public interest. Did the government ever officially look into it again?
Well, yes. Public pressure, and specifically a request from a New Mexico congressman, led to a GAO audit in 1994, the General Accounting Office.
What was the GAO trying to find?
They were tasked with locating any government records about Roswell and figuring out if they'd been handled properly. They focused mainly on the Air Force.
And did the Air Force cooperate? Did they do their own digging?
They did. Prompted by the GAO request, the Air Force launched its own internal investigation. They published a report in July 1994 titled Report of Air Force Research Regarding the Roswell Incident.
Catchy title. What did they find? Any smoking guns in their current files? Cover-up documents?
Initially, no. Their researchers checked existing Air Force offices and found zero records indicating any kind of cover-up or even the recovery of anything extraterrestrial.
Okay, so nothing obvious lying around. Did they look deeper back into the archives?
They did. They really intensified the search, went through numerous archives, record centers, looking specifically at documents from July 1947.
Yeah, and any unusual activity, spikes in security, secretive troop movements?
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
The research indicated no unusual increase in operations, security levels, or anything else you might expect if, they'd just recovered a crashed alien spaceship. Pretty routine, according to the records.
But their research did uncover something relevant, didn't it? Something that wasn't aliens, but maybe explained the debris?
Yes. This is key. They found information about a project that was top secret back then. Project Moji Hyul.
Project Moji Hyul, what was that?
It was a highly classified project using high-altitude balloons. The goal was to try and detect Soviet nuclear tests using sensitive acoustic equipment carried by these balloons. Early Cold War stuff.
Balloons trying to listen for Soviet bombs.
Okay.
How does that connect to Roswell?
Well, as part of digging into Moji Hyul, the Air Force researchers tracked down and interviewed surviving personnel from the project.
People who actually worked on these secret balloons.
Exactly. And crucially, they found the only person still alive who had been part of the original debris recovery team back in 1947, Lieutenant Colonel Cabot.
Wow. So nearly 50 years later, they talked to someone who was actually there picking up the pieces. What did he say?
He gave them a signed, sworn statement in 1994. He was very clear. He said the material he recovered consisted of reflective, foil-like material and thin, sort of bamboo-like sticks.
Foil and sticks. What did he think it was?
He stated unequivocally that he believed it was a weather balloon back in 1947, and his opinion hadn't changed. He'd apparently told private researchers the same thing over the years.
Okay, direct eyewitness, but what about those famous photos, the ones with Major Marcel posing with the debris? Some say that shows weird stuff or that it was swapped out.
Right, there were May Marcel photos taken at Fort Worth. They showed these to Lieutenant Colonel Cabot. His reaction. He identified the materials in those photos as being totally consistent with the foil and sticks he recovered from the ranch. No discrepancy in his view.
Interesting. Did he mention anything about being silenced? Threats? Oaths of secrecy? The usual cover-up stuff?
Explicitly denied it, said he never took any secrecy oath about Roswell, never signed anything preventing him from talking, never threatened. In fact, he said he only found out the whole thing was considered some big mystery in the early 1980s.
Okay, so Project Magallo seems like a pretty strong candidate here. Let's dig into that a bit more. Top secret balloons.
Yeah, it was run by New York University, NYU, and Watson Labs. A 1946 memo classified the scientific data from it as Top Secret Priority 1A. It was all about figuring out what the Soviets were up to with nuclear weapons.
Because they couldn't just, ask them or fly it over easily back then.
Precisely. Borders were closed. So the idea was maybe long-range balloons carrying low-frequency acoustic detectors could pick up the sound waves from a nuclear explosion thousands of miles away.
Clever. And how do we link a specific module flight to the Roswell debris?
The research looked at the NYU group's flight logs. Flights A through 7, from late 46 to July 2nd, 1947, used neoprene meteorological balloons. Professor Moore, one of the module scientists interviewed.
Yeah, what did he say about them?
He explained that these neoprene balloons tended to degrade in sunlight. They'd turn dark brown or black, become brittle, and apparently gave off a kind of acrid smell.
Dark, brittle material, weird smell. That does sound a bit like some of the descriptions of the unusual Roswell debris, doesn't it?
It does. Professor Moore actually looked at the 1947 press conference photos and read descriptions from books by people claiming they handled the debris. His conclusion: it looked very much like the shredded remains of one of their balloon trains.
A train, like multiple balloons.
Yeah, a multi-neoprene balloon train carrying radar reflectors, which would explain the foil-like material Cabot mentioned.
Okay, reflectors match the foil. What about the sticks?
The research points specifically to Mogar Flight 4. It was a service flight, and unlike typical weather flights, it carried a metal sonobu and parts of a boxed weather instrument. Also, the balloon structure itself involved lightweight spars, possibly mistaken for sticks.
And what happened to Flight 4?
Research by A.P. Crary confirmed Flight 4 launched June 4, 1947, and significantly, the NYU team never recovered it. It went missing.
Launched a month before the discovery went missing near Roswell.
The trajectory suggests it's highly probable. Flight 4 drifted northwest of Roswell, came down, got shredded by ground winds, and lay there until the rancher, Mac Brazel, found it, possibly 10 days or so after launch, matching the timeline.
And Lieutenant Colonel Cabot's description.
Fits perfectly. Bamboo-type square sticks and metallic reflecting material are entirely consistent with the components of a Mogul Flight 4 assembly, including the radar targets.
Okay, that sounds pretty convincing as an explanation for the debris. But what about that initial flying disc press release? Why would they say that if it was just their own secret balloon?
That's still a bit fuzzy. The research didn't find a definitive order or reason for that specific announcement. However, there's a potential clue.
Oh.
An Alamogordo News article from July 10, 1947, had photos showing multiple balloons and radar targets at the Mogul launch site. Professor Moore was surprised. He thought his was the only balloon group there.
Maybe there were other balloon activities going on.
Or maybe the research suggests there was a kind of general umbrella cover story involving weather balloons to obscure the real classified purpose of MOAGEL. Just general atmospheric research, nothing to see here.
So the weather balloon explanation given by General Ramey later, it might have been true about the parts, but also served to protect MOAGEL.
Plausible. The research found no direct order telling Ramey to say weather balloon. He might have known about MOAGEL and acted to protect it. Or maybe his weather officer, Irving Newton, simply identified the debris correctly as balloon parts. Either way, the debris itself wasn't classified.
And once it was just a weather balloon, the press lost interest.
Pretty quickly, yeah. Not much of a story. Declassified MOAGEL documents confirm its secret nature, but also support the weather balloon parts as the likely source of the Roswell debris.
What about the higher-level cover-up claims? Generals ordering silence.
The research looked into specific allegations. Major General McMullen supposedly ordered a cover-up. No evidence found in SEC command correspondence from 47. Brigadier General Yates, head of Air Weather Service, accused of confirming the balloon story as part of the cover-up.
Yeah.
Well, the debris reportedly went to Andrews AAF, home of the Air Weather Service, so its logical weather equipment would go there for analysis. But again, no evidence found that this was part of some grand deception about aliens.
Okay, so the research paints a picture of Roswell likely being Project MOAGEL debris, misinterpreted initially, then explained away, partly perhaps to protect the secret project. Less exciting, maybe, but
Grounded
in the available evidence, yeah. Now, that brings us smoothly, or perhaps inevitably, to Area 51.
Right. Area 51, Groom Lake, Nevada. The name itself is legendary.
It really is. Almost synonymous with UFOs and alien secrets in pop culture. It's kind of ironic. Apparently, the name started as a bit of an internal joke, but it took on this massive conspiracy life of its own.
And the secrecy definitely fuels it. For years, it wasn't even officially on maps, right? No budget lines mentioning it. That screams hiding something.
Exactly. Perfect fodder for speculation. And it had plenty of code names, too, adding to the mystique. Watertown was the CIA's initial name.
Paradise Ranch. I've heard that one.
Yeah, reportedly an unofficial tongue-in-cheek name to try and lure personnel out to the rather desolate location before they knew quite how secret the work was. Also, just the ranch, the remote location, dreamland, the box. Lots of names. So what was the actual documented reason for setting it up back in the 50s?
The CIA oversaw its construction, and the primary initial mission was top secret. Developing and testing the U-2 spy plane.
The U-2. Okay, so straight away we're talking about highly classified, cutting-edge human technology, not alien tech.
That's what the initial research strongly indicates. The U-2 was revolutionary high-altitude reconnaissance during the Cold War. They needed a remote, secure place to test it, away from prying eyes, Soviet or otherwise.
Did other things happen there after the U-2?
Oh, yes. Even after U-2 testing largely moved to Edwards Air Force Base, Area 51 remained a hub for classified aerospace work. Project Have Idea, for example.
What was that?
That involved getting their hands on foreign aircraft, particularly Soviet MiGs, and evaluating them, flying them, figuring out the capabilities. Very sensitive stuff.
Testing captured enemy planes. Okay,
Yeah.
Still terrestrial.
Right. Plus other Air Force Flight Test Center projects and a Navy drone project called Aquiline that got canceled. It was primarily about advanced aeronautics and intelligence gathering.
But the alien connection is so strong. Where did that really take off? We mentioned Robert Lazar earlier.
Lazar is a huge figure in the Area 51 alien lore. Late 80s, he comes forward claiming he worked at a hidden facility near Groom Lake called S4.
And he claimed to have seen... What?
He described seeing 9 distinct disc-shaped alien spacecraft being stored and reverse-engineered there. He also talked about seeing small gray beings with large eyes. Classic alien imagery.
His story blew up, obviously. Was it ever verified?
Well, verifying his employment records proved difficult, and the research notes suggest there were efforts to discredit him after he went public. His story remains highly controversial and largely uncorroborated by official sources or documentation.
Any alternative theories about what Lazar might have seen, if anything?
Some less common theories speculate he might have seen advanced human aircraft or maybe even, bizarrely, surgically altered humans as part of some disinformation plot. but that's deep speculation.
So despite Lazar's very popular claims, the bulk of the research still points to Area 51's secrecy being about
Advanced aircraft development. Protecting U.S. technological superiority during the Cold War, primarily. Things like the U-2, the A-12, Heavy, Blue E, which led to the F-117 stealth fighter. Things that looked truly alien when they first flew.
That makes sense. And that belief persists. Remember the whole Storm Area 51 thing in 2019?
Oh, yeah. Started as an internet joke, a meme event. It kind of fizzled into what some called a fiasco, maybe a Burning Man for the alien crowd. But it showed the power of that narrative.
And the research suggests those memes weren't just jokes, right? They tapped into something deeper.
Narrative theory analysis suggests they did. They played on common themes, common anxieties about government secrecy, about this perceived wild zone where the government operates totally unchecked, possibly hiding world-changing secrets like aliens.
And popular culture constantly links Roswell to Area 51, like in the movie Independence Day.
Exactly. The idea that the Roswell wreckage, maybe even the bodies, were shipped off to Area 51 for secret study is a staple in ufology and fiction.
But as we discussed, the Air Force research points Roswell towards Project Machiavelli. Is there any actual evidence linking the Roswell debris to Area 51?
Based on the research we've reviewed, no credible link has been established. The Mogiel explanation keeps Roswell grounded in 1947 events, while Area 51's documented history starts later and focuses on aircraft testing. The link seems mostly folkloric.
It shows how these theories can kind of connect and grow, doesn't it? Debunk one part and another tentacle pops up.
The research calls it becoming a potentially infinite network. You counter one claim, and believers often just adapt the theory, incorporating the debunking attempt itself as proof of the cover-up. It gets complicated.
So if we focus just on Area 51 and try to debunk the alien angle specifically, what does the research emphasize?
It consistently points back to the Cold War context. The intense secrecy was necessary, but for protecting classified aircraft programs, not aliens. The timeline of activities at Groom Lake is all about testing planes, developing radar, electronic warfare.
Things you definitely wouldn't want the Soviets knowing about in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Absolutely not. Technological advantage was critical. The physical descriptions of Area 51 from observers and declassified information also match a large, secure, but ultimately conventional military flight test facility.
What about all the UFO sightings reported around the area over the years? Surely that suggests something unusual.
Well, consider the U-2 again, flying way higher and faster than anything known publicly at the time. Its unusual silver appearance at extreme altitude. It undoubtedly led to misidentifications by civilian and even military pilots who didn't know what they were seeing.
So, test flights of secret planes likely caused many UFO reports.
Very likely, yes. And the CIA's involvement, the need to keep the U-2's capability secret, meant they couldn't just come out and say, oh, that was one of ours. They had to maintain ambiguity, which only fueled speculation.
Even the name Paradise Ranch, it kind of reinforces the human element, doesn't it? A slightly desperate attempt to make a harsh posting sound appealing.
Exactly. It speaks more to personnel management for a tough, secret human project than hiding aliens.
So pulling it all together, the lack of hard evidence for aliens at either Roswell or Area 51 is pretty significant.
It's a major factor. Decades of claims, alleged leaks, investigations. But no verifiable craft, no bodies, no undisputed alien artifacts have emerged. In contrast, we have detailed, documented explanations like Project Mogiel for Roswell.
And the history of classified aircraft testing for Area 51's secrecy.
Supported by declassified documents, project histories, and even eyewitness accounts like L.T. Kolkavitz that align with the terrestrial explanations.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway from diving into the research on Roswell and Area 51?
Well, it reveals this really complex mix, doesn't it? There are elements of genuine mystery, things that were hard to explain at the time. There's misinterpretation. There are definitely classified government projects happening.
And layered over all that is this incredibly powerful human fascination with the unknown, with the possibility of life beyond Earth.
Exactly. And while those narratives of crashed ships and secret alien bases are compelling, really compelling, The available research, when you look at it closely, offers logical, earthly explanations for the core events and the secrecy surrounding them.
Roswell looks very likely to be the crash of a secret project Mogiel balloon array.
And Area 51's intense secrecy seems firmly rooted in protecting groundbreaking but human-made aviation technology during the Cold War.
It really underscores how important it is to, critically evaluate sources, look at all the available research, especially when dealing with claims that sound extraordinary.
Absolutely. To separate the documented facts from the speculation, however exciting that speculation might be.
Well, thank you for joining us on this pretty deep exploration of the Roswell and Area 51 conspiracies. It's a lot to unpack.
It certainly is. These stories have deep roots.
If this journey into secrecy and speculation spurred your interest and you want more deep dives into mysteries like these, please do make sure to like, follow, and subscribe. We'll be back soon with more from the Conspiracy Files, right here on Beyond the Known.